you mentioned it earlier, and I'd like to talk more about your album, The Computer Room, because this kind of sense of nostalgia that you talk about when you describe this album, like on your website, for example, or in the liner notes for it, longing for the computer room of your youth. It's something that I really relate to because, I was on like AOL Instant Messenger and messenger boards, and like it was just like a big part of my youth, like growing up. So, how did your early days in your family's computer room go on to influence your music?
It was just like a cultural thing that really just informed a lot of my taste. And like the kind of art and culture that I had access to was heavily rooted in like the online communities I was in. I don't know, like talking to people like Aaron Satian and Andrew Noseworthy, like they both like these are two of my best friends from my master's program, but they both grew up around like very hardcore emo communities. Like they had those physical proximity to these cultural scenes. And I grew up in like the suburbs of Georgia. There wasn't a whole lot of art going on. There wasn't a lot of like easily accessible things I could grapple with in my community. So I spent most of my time on the internet. And that led me down to like playing StarCraft. And then that led me down to like watching Korean esports and then finding other people who were into that and like finding the music that they listen to, which was a lot of like what's EDM now was like trance and techno and all of that, but then also very early generations of like K-pop and J-pop.
Mm.
So then all of that kind of morphed its way into the things that informed my taste even now as an adult. I'm just like, oh yeah, this feels familiar. This feels like a thing. Like this has very much informed my taste.
Yeah, I grew up, and I still am, an only child, and, that hasn't changed. I grew up as an only child, and so I'm, like, a very introverted person, I think because of that. I kinda had to, like, make my own fun, and I think for me, growing up, the computer was, like, the ultimate companion, and so I very quickly, I had like a Super Nintendo and a PlayStation, for example, but I quickly discovered like MMORPGs, and then it's like, oh, I can play video games with people from all over. I think the one that maybe a lot of people, I don't know if people still play this or not, like RuneScape,
Oh yeah.
like, and actually, only really one other person that I went to school with growing up really was into this kind of stuff. I mean, I had all kinds of friends, through band, but one friend in particular, I'll give him a shout out, Jordan. Jordan Wright, he was also into all this stuff, and weirdly enough, he's the only person I still talk to that I grew up with. But yeah, he was also a component in like helping me. He was sharing like music with me and like torrented anime episodes that we like you couldn't get here in the United States and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, I just think it's really, I mean, it obviously shaped who I am in a lot of ways, but nowhere near to the degree that it's like shaped your music. And so I think it's, again, I talk about this all the time on this podcast with people, including Andrew, who I had on about a month ago or so, about, this internet age that we grew up in, which is far different than what it is now in a lot of ways, was such a beautiful kind of thing, like it helped us connect with people and places that we otherwise wouldn't have access to. And I think it's just really awesome that you've made a whole album about it.
It's like a fun little like time machine to like think back on. It's in a way that like we're always online now. It kind of feels like we're not actually there anymore. Of like being online was like a conscious, active choice that you had to be in like at that time. It's like, oh, if someone was online on your AOL friends list, there's like, oh yeah, they like showed up to the hang. They're like they're there and you can like talk and hang out with them. But then like cool. They gotta go do something else. They're offline. Cool. They're done. That's
Yep.
like that's good, you know. So it's like everyone was choosing to be an active participant, which was really fun.
Yeah, I remember at that point. Now we're just like talking,
Just in
waxing
zone.
nostalgic. Um, I remember like, this was at a time, at least for me, certainly before iPhones and before cell phone. Like, I would have been like 12 or 14 or something. I didn't have a cell phone, but I had AOL as instant messenger on the computer, and I could like instantly talk to my friends. And I remember being at Walmart once and seeing like a device that would let me do that away from the computer. It's like a texting device,
Hmm.
and it's like thinking about how badly I wanted to be able to do that at that age, and now it's just like a given for everybody. Like you can
Yeah.
instantly like talk to anyone from anywhere in the world. And in a lot of ways it's like, no, take me back to before that was a thing.
Hmm. No, I definitely remember being like a very late adopter on texting.
Mm,
I didn't get a cell phone even until I think like my last 2 years of high school, and then even then, it was, like, phone calls only, no texting.
yeah.
It
Yeah.
it was very that, but then I, like, gradually noticed, like, less and less of my friends were online on AOL, and I was just like, "Oh, okay, I guess the party's dying down," because everyone's moved on to the cool new thing, and I'm like, "Alright, I'll see y'all later."
Thank you so much for tuning in to Micromaker by Loose Leaf Transmissions. We hope you enjoyed this brief glimpse into the inner workings of the creative life. If this resonated with you, be sure to check out the full conversation on Music Maker with Tyler Kline, a podcast exploring craft and process, philosophy and inspiration, and the honest, often messy parts of being an artist, creative uncertainty, purpose and identity, and resilience. You can find Music Maker wherever you get your podcasts or by visiting musicmakerpodcast.com.